listen up. If you've never played a dead body before on stage, then I'm not truly convinced you've actually earned your amateur stripes yet. I've played one, obviously, some years ago in Tom Stoppard's one-act masterpiece, The Real Inspector Hound. But there are examples all over theatre, all over drama, from things like Shakespeare, King Lear, Hamlet, Titus Andronicus, right through to Agatha Christie, whodunits. There's dead bodies involved in many productions, and they vary from being on stage a long time, like mine, throughout the duration, or just a small period of time when, as soon as the lights change, they can shuffle off stage. And by the way, it's important to understand that I'm not referring to the verb of corpsing, to corpse, when you get a fit of the giggles or you ruin a scene or theatrical take, whatever it might be, that kind of thing, on stage, because that's an article for a whole other story, and you only need to go onto YouTube and search Ricky Gervais corpsing, and there'll be many examples for you to experience. So there we go. Yeah, in my humble experience of being in The Real Inspector Hound, my character actually enters quite healthy at the very beginning as the curtain goes up, but immediately the sound of a gunshot, I'm dispatched with a bullet, and for the rest of the play I have to spend on the floor, still quite dead, in front of the entire audience, and not move, obviously. Such performances are probably restricted to amateur societies these days, although there have been some professional examples in the past. Amateurs, community theatre, grassroots, whatever you want to call it, non-professional, student theatre, student productions, anything like that, it'll be restricted to these days, I'm sure. And there can't be many producers, because I can't think of a professional with 3 years training behind them who would accept such a dead-end opportunity. There can't be many theatre producers also that are that happy with paying the wages of an actor when all they need to do is lie on the ground, be still, be dead for the duration. Playing a prop dummy is much cheaper to employ, and also completely lifeless by default. So fantastic, and there are examples of those going on. Yeah. The celebs we've interviewed over the years, the many celebs, actors, blah blah blah, I'm sure that they would only ever admit to playing such a static role in their pre-professional, pre-celebrity, in their amateur or student days, I'm sure. Probably. Great word, isn't it? Probably. Gets you out of all sorts of legal ramifications. Stick the word probably in front of or at the end of a sentence, and all of a sudden it's not a fact you're delivering, but just your mere opinion. Probably the best lager in the world. Genius. I would have said pure genius there, but it might have got me into a whole different kind of legal ramification with the 250-year-old Irish company that produces the black stuff. Can I even say black stuff? Irish Dry Stout. You know what I mean. Begins with a big G. Yeah, that's the one. But I digress, obviously. As far as I can see, the whole process of playing a dead body should probably be split into 3 parts, and the first of which is called casting and convincing, and it takes place long before the audience ever get a chance to enjoy your Oscar-winning performance. That will involve an actor being approached, normally by the director in amateur circles, let's face it, with the proposal to play said dead body. Now, any run-of-the-mill performer might be put out or even offended at the thought of being asked to play a dead body, until it's pointed out to them that this will probably be the single most important and challenging role they're ever likely to take on in their life or their career. And let's not face it, the dead body is often the most pivotal and most important role of the play. in question. Certainly was for the real Inspector Hound, obviously. So there we go. So that's the actor being approached. Yeah. Only the most respected, talented of actors would ever even be able to be would ever be approached and to be asked to take on such an iconic role, and only the respected and talented actor would ever be able to pull off such a difficult challenge in the first place. So yeah. Hence, one's name is added to the cast list. Part 2 in this whole process is called playing the part. If you're ever given the opportunity to be killed on stage or to die on stage, you've got to make the most of it. Dying on stage is an art form all in itself, as I'm sure Shakespeare's Bottom, if he were here today, would confirm for me. His death scene portrayal of Pyramus is the stuff of legend. Absolutely iconic piece of theatre. And brilliantly performed by Bottom. By the way, a little tip here: if you do die on stage, if you've got a sofa or a chaise lounge to fall over, just to dramatise the event in question, may help you. I don't know. That was the case with me, and I made the most of that. I think I fell over a chaise lounge actually. And it looked fantastic, of course. So there we go. Now, this next part, you may need to just sit down and brace yourself for. You may need to prepare to lose a little bit of realism along the way. I know. When you're playing a drunkard, of course, you're told to tone it down a bit, or the reins are firmly pulled back. Say, don't go over the top, don't overact. You know, in the quest for realism, you have to tone it down. But of course, if your body twitches for 5 minutes after you're dispatched, then you may be accused of attempting to steal the audience's focus away from the action of the play. Never mind the fact that you might have worked for a butcher's in your teenage years and therefore spent a couple of days at Christmas on a turkey farm plucking turkeys, and therefore have seen firsthand what happens to our festive feasts after in the 5 minutes after the deadly deed is done. Never mind about all that, you know. So just be prepared for a little bit of realism to be lost. I know it's going to be difficult, but you've got to do it. But who needs realism anyway? You know, we all know the sky isn't blue, the sea isn't blue. More the result of the light waves, the sun's light waves being refracted by the Earth's atmosphere and given the impression or the appearance of a blue hue, and the sea is only blue because it reflects that blue hue as seen from a long way away or even space. We all know that. Yet, you know, I mean, it's like David Attenborough didn't narrate a video shot sequence with a blue filter on the camera, did he? No. Yet his TV series, his big TV series, was called Blue Planet. How mad's that? And there's no end of dramatic license being taken by some of our most loved artists and playwrights. ELO's Mr. Blue Sky, Terence Rattigan, The Deep Blue Sea. It goes on and on and on. But I digress, probably. The next thing you've got to think about is your breathing. If the adrenaline from being dispatched on stage is still coursing through your veins, it might be very hard to control your breathing and your heartbeat to such an extent where you can play a dead body convincingly. This is part of the difficult challenge, of course. But the sight of a breathing corpse, chest heaving, sweat patches under the arms, apparently can be a bit naff or amateur, whatever that means, to a few onlookers. But we come on to part 3 now, and that's called staying awake. Once your breathing has returned to normal and you've got over the initial shock of being on stage for the entire duration of the play, of the drama, and you know your heartbeats return to normal, then you must do everything you can to stay awake, to follow the action, and to keep your head in the play that's going on, which means you must resist every single urge you've got to have a quick sleep, a snooze, catch 40 winks, a snoring corpse. You know, as I say, can appear a bit naff or amateur. So there we go. Also, you've got to be ready to jump up at the very end, so you can't be asleep. You need to jump up very quick at the very end to drink in all that applause that will obviously be directed at you, playing the most important part on stage, and having given the performance of your life. No pun intended. You know, you got to watch out for that. So there we are. One last thing, try to resist the temptation to peep through the slits in your eyes at the audience as you lay there dead, if you are able to do so. You know, don't check out how the audience is following the action, whether they're enjoying the drama on stage, that kind of thing. You've just got to let it play out. I'll tell you for why. Because although most of the audience will be watching the play, one or two people in the audience will be watching you, just waiting for the slightest indication that you haven't actually passed away at all, and that you are actually just acting. So don't make their day or evening, even if it is a family member. So there you go. Now, if you've followed my experience, and if you can take on my tips and advice, then there's no reason why you too shouldn't be able to make such a name for yourself and play a dead body again and again and again. Be a perfect silent witness, probably. See you later.